So, back in 2025, this term started popping up everywhere, vibe coding. You know, the idea of building software just by using plain language with an AI guiding you. Well, less than a year later, the data is officially in. And let me tell you, it is crystal clear that this is not just some passing trend. It's the biggest shift in the history of how we build software, period. Let's break down exactly how we got here.
And how did this happen so fast? I mean, look at this timeline. It's wild. It all starts in February 2025. AI expert Andrej Karpathy just casually posts about this new style he's calling vibe coding. Fast forward to December, and it's not a niche thing anymore. Collins Dictionary names it their word of the year. And now, here we are in early 2026, and it's just mainstream reality, backed by some serious data. That kind of speed, that tells you something profound is going on.
You know, getting crowned Word of the Year is a huge cultural signal. But the real story, the one that really matters, that's in the data. The numbers for 2026 confirm this is way more than just hype. We are literally watching a historic change in how software gets made, and maybe even more importantly, who is making it.
All right, let's start with the pros. The first number you have to see is 92%. That's how many developers in the US are now using AI coding tools every single day. This isn't some new experiment they're trying out. It's the new standard for how the industry works. The adoption war, it's over.
Now, let's talk about the sheer scale of what's being created. Gartner is projecting that 60%, think about that, more than half, of all new software code written this year will be generated by an AI. This tells us that AI isn't just a helper anymore. It's not just making developers faster. It's becoming the main engine of creation itself.
And this isn't some future prediction, right? This is happening right now, across the board. Look at GitHub. Nearly half of all new code is AI generated. At Y Combinator, one of the top startup accelerators, you've got new companies launching with code bases that are over 90% AI. And in the Fortune 500, Walmart saved 4 million developer hours. The proof is it's everywhere. So the evidence is just overwhelming. AI is fundamentally changing software development. But this brings us to the really critical question. Who is at the heart of this revolution? Is it just the professional developers we've been talking about, or is something else going on?
Okay, this next number, this is the one that reframes the entire story. 63%. That's the percentage of people using these vibe coding tools who say they are non-developers. I'm going to say that again. Not junior coders, not beginners, people with no formal coding background whatsoever. Just let that sink in for a second. This means that marketers, designers, analysts, experts in their own fields can now build the tools they need themselves. This changes the very fabric of entrepreneurship.
So, what are they building? Are these just little hobby projects? Nope. Not even close. Look at this chart. 44% are building complete user interfaces, 20% are building full-stack applications. These are real complex software products, and they're being created by people who just a year ago would have been totally locked out of this world.
And here is the most crucial point of all. A massive new wave of creators has just entered the game. And the market they've just unlocked, it's one of the largest and fastest growing on the planet, valued at nearly $500 billion.
We're talking about the software as a service market, or SaaS. It's set to hit $465 billion in 2026. That's up from $408 billion just last year. It's the fastest growing category in technology, and thanks to vibe coding, it's finally open for business to non-technical founders.
Now, entering a market this huge can feel, well, pretty intimidating, but there are really two very different ways to play the game. You've got the traditional route funded by venture capital, super high risk, high burn, takes years to see a profit. But then there's another way, a way that's perfect for this new wave of creators. It's called Micro-SaaS. It's lean, it's bootstrapped, and it's laser focused on a very specific audience.
And this next statistic shows you just how powerful this model really is. 95%. A recent survey found that 95% of Micro-SaaS founders reach profitability within their very first year. In the traditional software world, that kind of number is, well, it's almost unheard of.
So, how does it work?
It's beautiful in its simplicity. You just build a focused tool that solves one specific problem for one specific audience. The math is wonderfully straightforward. You get 100 customers to pay you just $49 a month, and that's nearly $5,000 in recurring revenue. That's a real sustainable business.
And this brings us right back to where we started. Remember that Word of the Year award? A dictionary isn't in the business of predicting the future. It documents the present. It's confirming that this whole business opportunity we just walked through isn't some niche, futuristic idea. It's a mainstream cultural reality that is happening right now.
So that brings us to the final, and I think the most important, challenge. See, the barrier to entry isn't about having access to the tools anymore. It's all about closing what's called the knowing-doing gap.
The journey looks so simple on a slide, doesn't it? On one side, you've got knowledge. You know that vibe coding makes this possible. On the other side, you have action. You actually launch a profitable product. But that huge gap right there in the middle, that's where 95% of people get stuck. Because here's what the most successful non-technical founders understand. Building the actual product, that's only like 20% of the equation. It's just the tip of the iceberg. The other 80%, that's everything else. That's validating your idea, marketing it, acquiring customers. The tool's just one small piece of a much bigger business system.
So look, the tools have democratized building. That barrier to entry has completely collapsed. The defining question for 2026 is no longer, can you build a software business? The only question left is, will you?